Today, gravity is bending, and it started the moment I touched the hull. Beneath 40 meters of compacted sand, I found something no salvage registry has ever logged. A monolithic alien vessel, asymmetrical, fractured, and pulsing faintly under bright daylight like it never truly shut down. This wasn't a clean crash. It wasn't erosion. It was buried, deliberately. The structure isn't circular like the last one. It's vertical. Layered slabs of matte black alloy rising at sharp, uneven angles, like a cathedral torn from another planet and slammed into ours. Sand pours through hollow cavities in slow streams, as if the ship is breathing. No scorch marks, no debris field, no escape paths. And when my scanner made first contact, it didn't return data. It returned a countdown. 17 minutes and 42 seconds. That was the time remaining when I arrived on site. I don't know what happens at zero, but I know one thing. The desert temperature dropped by 4 degrees the second the timer appeared. This isn't a simple restoration. This is containment. If you're new here, this is what we do. We restore what the universe leaves behind. Ancient vessels, abandoned megastructures, technology that was never meant to be understood. And this one might be the most dangerous yet. If you enjoy high-stakes sci-fi salvage and want to see what happens when alien engineering wakes up under human hands, consider subscribing. Drop a like if you think the ship should stay buried, and comment right now. Do we restore it or walk away? Because in exactly 17 minutes, something is going to happen. And I'm not leaving. 15 minutes and 3 seconds. That's what the timer reads now. And here's the first problem. It's not coming from inside the ship. I ran a full-spectrum scan across the hull expecting to trace the signal to a core, reactor chamber, or dormant AI nexus. Nothing. The countdown isn't broadcasting outward. It's projecting downward, into the ground. The sand beneath the vessel isn't just compacted sediment. It's structured, layered in geometric compression patterns that don't occur naturally. Almost like the desert floor was engineered or rewritten. I deployed seismic probes around the perimeter. Every single one came back with the same anomaly. There's a cavity below the ship, and it's bigger than the vessel itself. The monolith isn't what crashed. It's what sealed something. The vertical slabs that form the hull aren't random architecture. They're locking mechanisms. Massive, interlocking plates angled inward, as if gripping the earth. The faint amber veins running across the alloy, they're not power conduits. They're restraints. 13 minutes and 27 seconds. The temperature just dropped again. Wind patterns are shifting toward the crash site from all directions, pulling sand inward. Not naturally. It's synchronized. The ship is reacting to the countdown, or the thing beneath it is. This is where most salvagers would call it. But there's something different here compared to the last restoration. Last time, the anomaly was dormant, reactive only when powered. This one, it's waiting, and it doesn't care whether I activate it, because whatever happens at zero isn't dependent on me. I placed a thermal charge against one of the fractured plates to test structural response. The metal didn't heat. It absorbed, then redirected the energy downward, like it's feeding something. 00. 1102. There's movement below the cavity. Slow, massive, and it's not mechanical. I thought this was a restoration. Now I'm starting to think this ship was never meant to be restored. It was meant to stay heavy, buried, holding something in place. And I just started the clock. 9 minutes and 48 seconds. I repositioned the drones and dropped a microborer through one of the fractured gaps in the hull. Instead of resistance, the drill passed through layered alloy like it had already been cut from the inside. That's when the interior mapping rendered. There are no corridors, no bridge, no propulsion systems, no habitation chambers. The inside is hollow, except for one vertical shaft that runs straight down through the center of the vessel and disappears into the cavity below. This isn't transportation architecture. It's anchoring architecture. The layered slabs forming the hull are connected by tension fields, not welds. Each plate is under constant pressure, angled inward toward the shaft like fingers gripping something beneath the sand. And the amber veins? They converge at the base. They're not power lines. They're stress indicators. And they're getting brighter. 8 minutes and 21 seconds. The seismic probes just recalibrated. The cavity below is shifting, not collapsing, adjusting, like something massive is stretching. The drones picked up a low-frequency vibration, not seismic, not tectonic. Rhythmic. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Pause. It's not random. It's patterned. I fed the rhythm into the analyzer. It's too consistent to be environmental. It's biological. The structure above, the so-called ship, is compensating. The tension fields are tightening in response to each pulse. Plates grinding microscopically against each other to maintain pressure. Whatever is below this desert, this monolith is holding it down. 7 minutes and 5 seconds. I ran a surface integrity test on the outermost slab. The alloy composition isn't just advanced, it's adaptive. Every time the vibration pulses, the molecular lattice shifts to reinforce stress points. This thing has been actively restraining something for centuries, maybe longer, and now the countdown is approaching 7 minutes. Here's the terrifying part. I didn't trigger the timer. The first physical contact I made was a passive scan. No reading, no energy surge, just proximity, which means the countdown wasn't triggered by damage. It was triggered by detection. It knows it's been found, and whatever's underneath is waking up. 5 minutes and 52 seconds. The wind just stopped, not slowed, stopped. Dust that was spiraling toward the crash site is now suspended midair like the desert forgot how to fall. My instruments are glitching. Barometric pressure is fluctuating in microbursts, spiking and dipping in sync with the pulses from below. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. The tension fields along the vertical slabs are tightening so aggressively now that the alloy is emitting a low metallic resonance. Not loud, but deep, like a structure under unbearable strain. And then something changed. Instead of reinforcing inward, the lower plates shifted outward by 0.3 centimeters. That's not failure. That's release. The structure isn't just restraining something. It's responding to a threshold. I rerouted power to a gravimetric scanner and aimed it down the central shaft. The cavity beneath isn't empty. It's filled with a dense mass, but not solid. The readings fluctuate like liquid under compression. Dense, cohesive, layered. And then I saw it. A surface, far below the shaft. Not rock, not metal. Something smooth, curved, and it moved. For minutes and 11 seconds. The pulses changed rhythm. 2 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. The amber veins across the hull are no longer faint. They're glowing intensely, branching outward like fractures of light across the monolith. The desert floor around the ship is cracking, not collapsing, just splitting into perfect radial lines. This is controlled. Whatever is below isn't trying to escape violently. It's waiting for pressure equilibrium. The countdown isn't a detonation timer. It's a synchronization timer. When it hits 0, the locking plates will reach a release threshold. Not explode, not break. Open. 3 minutes and 3 seconds. I initiated a countermeasure, external compression fields anchored into the surrounding sand. If the structure opens, I can at least slow decompression. But here's the problem. My fields are being absorbed, just like the thermal charge earlier. The energy isn't dispersing. It's being drawn downward, fed. The pulses just increased amplitude. The curved surface beneath the shaft shifted again. And this time, I saw an indentation, like something pressing back from the other side. Whatever is below this monolith, it's not a creature trapped underground. It's something contained inside the planet itself. And in 3 minutes, the lock reaches 0. 42 seconds. The desert is humming now. Not loud enough to hear with human ears, but my suit is vibrating with it. The resonance frequency matches the pulses exactly. The entire monolith is synchronizing. 19 seconds. The amber veins across the slabs flare brighter than direct sunlight. The radial cracks in the sand widen in perfect geometric symmetry. 5 seconds. The pulses stop. Total silence. Even the air feels frozen. Midnight. Nothing explodes. Nothing collapses. Instead, the vertical slabs unlock. Not violently. Not dramatically. They separate by exactly 1 meter, sliding outward in perfect unison. The tension fields dissolve into thin threads of light and retract into the alloy like muscles relaxing after centuries of strain. And then the central shaft opens completely. What was once hidden beneath the ship is now visible. A sphere, massive, smooth, perfectly symmetrical. It isn't buried in soil. It's embedded in a cavity carved precisely to its curvature. The monolith wasn't holding something chaotic. It was holding something precise. The sphere's surface is matte obsidian, interrupted only by faint geometric patterns that begin illuminating in slow sequence, like circuitry mapping itself awake. My scanner overloads. The density reading makes no sense. It's heavier than any alloy I've encountered, but its gravitational pull is neutral, which means one thing. It's regulating itself. The pulses resume, but now they're coming from the sphere. 2 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. The slabs that form the ship don't fall away. They rotate, repositioning around the sphere like protective petals. The structure didn't fail. It transitioned. The lock didn't break. It completed. This wasn't containment. It was incubation, and I was here for the hatch. The sphere just emitted a narrow beam straight upward into the sky. Not energy, not plasma, a signal, and whatever receives it isn't on this planet. The beam didn't scatter. It didn't burn through clouds or distort the air. It passed cleanly upward, a perfectly stable column of pale amber light stretching beyond visible atmosphere. My orbital relay pinged instantly. There's a response, not from satellites, not from debris, from deep orbit. Something just adjusted trajectory. The sphere below me continues its rhythmic pulse, but now the frequency is increasing, accelerating like a heartbeat under stress. The slabs surrounding it have locked into a new formation. Not pedals anymore. Supports. Stabilizers. The monolith wasn't a prison. It was a launch cradle. But the sphere hasn't lifted. It hasn't opened. It's waiting. I patched into my long-range array and forced a deep scan past the ionosphere. There's an object out there. Dark. Cold. Massive. It wasn't visible before because it wasn't reflecting light. It was absorbing it, camouflaged against the void. Now it's moving, slowly aligning with the beam's origin point. The timing is impossible to ignore. The buried structure waited centuries. The sphere counted down. The signal fired, and something in orbit responded instantly. That means this wasn't random placement. This was coordination. The desert temperature drops another degree. The sand around the site begins lifting gently, drawn upward in thin spirals toward the sphere. Not violently, gracefully. The gravitational readings are fluctuating again, but not stronger. Balanced. Like 2 massive objects are calibrating to each other across planetary distance. The orbital object just entered full scan resolution. It's not a ship. It's a ring. Enormous. Encircling nothing. And it's rotating to a line directly above me. The sphere pulses faster. The beam widens. And the ring begins to glow. Whatever this system is, the planet was never the final destination. It was the waiting room. And I just checked us in. The ring in orbit completes its rotation. Its inner edge ignites, not with fire, not with propulsion, but with the same amber light radiating from the sphere below. The beam between them thickens, stabilizes, and then something impossible happens. The gravitational fluctuations stop completely. Perfect equilibrium. The sand that had been lifting into spirals freezes mid-motion, suspended in a silent halo around the sphere. This isn't a launch. It's synchronization. The sphere's surface begins to shift, geometric lines rearranging in cascading patterns like a lock solving itself. Panels retract seamlessly, not breaking apart, but folding inward along invisible seams. Inside, not machinery, not a reactor. A void, absolute black. So deep my scanners can't return distance. It's not hollow. It's dimensional. The beam narrows and focuses into the center of that void. The ring in orbit mirrors the motion, its inner circumference unfolding in matching geometry. They aren't separate structures. They're endpoints, two halves of a single mechanism. The monolith in the desert was the anchor. The sphere is the ground terminal. The ring is the orbital gate. And I just witnessed activation. Energy level spike, but not destructively. Controlled. Precise. Measured in intervals that feel intentional, almost ceremonial. Then the void inside the sphere changes. It isn't empty anymore. There's light at its center. Faint at first, then growing. A star, not a projection, not a hologram. A miniature stellar core forming inside the dimensional cavity. The ring in orbit responds instantly, channeling energy back down through the beam. This is a bridge, not across space, across scale. Something is about to come through, and judging by the energy output, it isn't small. The light inside the sphere stabilizes, not chaotic like a forming star, structured, layered, contained within geometric boundaries that shouldn't exist in natural physics. The ring above completes a second rotation. Then everything aligns. The beam flickers once, twice, and the void inside the sphere ripples like liquid glass. Something is pushing through. Not an object, a shape. At first it's distortion, like heat over asphalt. Then mass begins to define itself inside the dimensional cavity. Edges, angles, movement. It's not emerging from underground. It's emerging from elsewhere. The ring in orbit isn't pulling something toward Earth. It's opening a corridor. The sphere is the receiving end. Energy readings are now beyond anything I've recorded, but stable, controlled to decimal precision. This wasn't a distress beacon. It was authentication. The buried monolith waited for a conscious species to detect it. The countdown ensured observation. The activation required witness. This wasn't about escape. It was about confirmation. Inside the sphere, the forming structure becomes clearer. It's enormous, larger than the monolith ever was. Its surface resembles layered architecture, not organic but not purely mechanical either. Complex, intentional, and it's slowing as it passes through. Not forced, invited. The desert around me is completely still now. No wind, no temperature fluctuation. The environment has normalized, as if the planet itself agreed to the exchange. The emerging structure stops halfway through the sphere's aperture. Then it changes orientation. And for the first time, I see symmetry. The same angular slabs, the same stress vein patterns, the same monolithic design as the ship buried beneath the sand. Only this one isn't damaged. It isn't fractured. It's intact. The crashed structure wasn't a vessel. It was a template, and something just arrived to replace it. Fully restored, fully operational, and it's looking down at me. The restored monolith hovers half-emerged within the sphere's dimensional aperture. It isn't resting on propulsion. It's suspended in geometric alignment, perfectly balanced between orbit and ground. The original fractured slabs in the desert begin shifting again, slowly disassembling and rising into the air in synchronized segments. They're not debris, they're components. Each piece rotates upward, guided by invisible fields, and attaches seamlessly to the newly arrived structure. Repair and reverse. The broken template below was never meant to be fixed. It was meant to be replaced, and I was never the mechanic. I was the witness. The restored monolith completes assembly with impossible precision. No sparks, no visible welding, just flawless reintegration. Then the beam narrows one final time and retracts into the sphere. The ring in orbit dims, but does not disappear. Standby mode. The sphere's interior void closes gradually, folding inward until it becomes a smooth obsidian surface once more. Silence returns, but the new monolith remains hovering above the desert floor, whole and towering. Its surface pulses faintly, not with strain like before, but with steady rhythm. Calm, measured, aware. My suit AI attempts a surface scan. For the first time since this began, it responds, not with data, with structure. a repeating pattern etched into the hull at microscopic scale. Not circuitry, not language as we know it, but formatted information, deliberate, broadcast outward in low-energy pulses. It's communicating, not aggressively, not defensively, informationally. The pulses are slow enough to decode, and as the first fragments translate, a realization settles in. This wasn't a containment event. It wasn't an invasion. It was infrastructure maintenance. The buried monolith had reached the end of its operational cycle. The system requested replacement, and the network delivered one, which means this planet is part of something much larger, and it has been for a very long time. The decoded pattern isn't a warning. It's a log, a maintenance record spanning time intervals far beyond recorded human history. The monolith above me isn't introducing itself. It's updating status. Node, planetary anchor 7A. Cycle, completed. Replacement, successful. Stability, optimal. Anchor, that word repeats. Not weapon, not ship, not guardian. Anchor. The restored structure emits a low harmonic tone, not audible in air, but resonant through the ground. My seismic probes respond instantly, mapping something massive beneath the planet's crust. Not a creature, not a device, a field, a planetary-scale energy lattice woven through the mantle like an invisible skeleton. And this monolith is connected to it. The fractured template buried in the sand was one of several nodes, dormant but functional, holding position, regulating stress in the lattice. If this is Anchor 7A, there are others, across oceans, under ice sheets, beneath mountain ranges, hidden in places no one thought to scan. The orbital ring pulses faintly again, confirming synchronization. Earth isn't being visited, it's being maintained. The lattice beneath the crust stabilizes as the new anchor locks into position. Tectonic tension readings drop fractionally. Microscopic adjustments ripple outward across the planet like a recalibration. This system isn't here to invade. It's here to prevent something. And then a new line appears in the decoded stream. Observer species detected. Technological threshold emerging. Evaluation in progress. The pulse is slow, then focus. The monolith rotates slightly, just enough that one smooth, unbroken surface faces me directly. No weapons deploy, no energy surge, just observation. It's not scanning the planet, it's scanning us. And for the first time since the countdown began, I understand the real event wasn't the replacement. It was our discovery. We weren't meant to stop this system. We were meant to notice it. Because when a species becomes capable of detecting planetary infrastructure, they become relevant to it. The monolith pulses again, faintly this time, almost like a heartbeat. But this pulse isn't aimed at the lattice beneath the planet. It's aimed at me. Not a weapon. Not a threat. Attention. I deploy my handheld scanner cautiously. As soon as it touches the hull's smooth obsidian surface, the alloy reacts. Microfractures of light bloom along the veins like neural firing. The structure isn't alive in a biological sense, but it's conscious in a way I can interface with. A projection appears, not visible to the eye, but my visor overlays it in fragmented data streams. It shows planetary stress maps, tectonic flows, even atmospheric models, layered across decades. The monolith isn't just anchored. It's managing a planet's equilibrium. And now, it's allowing me to help. I hesitate. My instincts scream. This is alien technology on a scale humanity has no right to control. But the monolith isn't asking me to control it. It's offering me context, access, a partnership. The interface isn't intuitive. It doesn't speak. It thinks. It presents options as probability flows and relational structures, almost like it anticipates my understanding before I form it. Every adjustment I make is evaluated instantly, not judged, just logged. Seconds feel like hours. My first micro-adjustment of the energy lattice below results in tiny shifts in the surrounding desert. Sand moves with precision, as if the planet itself responds to my hand. Then the monolith updates my visor again. Operator status, recognized. Not approved. Not engaged. Recognized. A subtle distinction, but it carries weight. I realize the truth. I'm not restoring this structure. I'm becoming its first human interface, a bridge between species-level planetary management and humanity's observational threshold. And that means everything I do here matters. Every misstep isn't just a failure. It's an alteration of planetary equilibrium, which is why leaving isn't an option. Not yet. The monolith waits. Patient, precise, and now it watches me. The sun beats down, but the desert feels still, as if time itself has paused. The monolith hovers, perfectly balanced above the sand, its pulses slow and deliberate. Every fiber of my equipment, every scanner, every probe is synced to it now. There's no error, no randomness, only equilibrium. I step closer. The visor overlays adjust in real time. The lattice beneath the planet shifts subtly in response to my presence. I'm not manipulating it. I'm participating. Every movement, every minor decision I make is feeding into a planetary-scale system. I'm not just a witness anymore. I'm an operator. The monolith's surface fractures of light pulse brighter, almost like acknowledgement. It's teaching me, guiding me, calibrating me to the scale of responsibility I've never encountered. Then I see it, projections of other nodes buried beneath mountains, oceans, ice, all inactive, all in standby. The network is vast. The planet is a single node in a planetary web spanning hundreds of worlds. Humanity's detection threshold just registered for the first time. And now we are noticed. I realize something terrifying. The monolith doesn't ask for help. It expects cooperation. Any error, any hesitation, any human miscalculation could cascade tectonics, climate anomalies, regional instability. The desert, the sand, the wind, they're all parts of a feedback loop I can't ignore. And yet, there's a strange serenity. This system isn't malicious. It isn't a threat. It's exacting, impartial, designed for balance and longevity. I've crossed the line into understanding. And with understanding comes responsibility. The orbital ring dims its glow. The beam from the sphere retracts. The pulses slow. Everything seems calm again. The system is stable for now. But I know the truth. This isn't just restoration. This is stewardship. Humanity has glimpsed planetary infrastructure far beyond comprehension. And I, Galactic Restorer, am the first human to interface, to maintain, to become accountable. Walking away is no longer an option. Observing is no longer enough. The planet, the lattice, and the monolith are bound to me. And I am bound to them. For centuries, this system waited. Now, it waits for us to prove we can bear the weight of awareness and act without faltering. Because once you touch the balance of a planet, neutrality is impossible. And a countdown? It was never a timer. It was a test. And we passed.